Welcome to the official Bathtub Refinishing podcast, powered by BathTubGuys Refinishing. This is where we discuss the refinishing industry, interview owners and operators, and give tips to customers and entrepreneurs. Now, here's your host, Daniel Montalvo.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the official Bathtub Refinishing podcast. And today, we have Trinidad from Enso Refinishing here.
Yeah, hey Daniel, how's it going, man?
I'm excited to have you in here. I need to test my soundboard because I forgot which one does what. Oh, this is the one I wanted to give you.
Thank you.
So, for those of you who don't know, go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do.
Okay, hi, my name is Trinidad Magana. I'm the owner of Enso Refinishing and Restoration Company in Houston, Texas. I did research into the industry, found Daniel, and we've been speaking ever since. And now I'm here on the podcast in Florida. Came out to do a demo for him. I think you posted pictures on social media about that?
Yeah, on Instagram, on the story, on Facebook.
Yeah.
Shouting you out, showing people what you do. Pretty good.
Thank you.
So, that's very exciting. There's some good stuff coming down the pipe, man. I'm excited.
Me too.
I'm excited to get started on everything and, build a working relationship,
Definitely, man.
So, and you guys know me because I host this thing, even though we haven't done one since Jonathan was here. But I'm glad that, people are starting to, warm up to the idea of coming along in person. And, your situation just kind of worked out because, like you said, we had been talking for a while.
Yeah.
And then, it just kind of sprung into, I'd go to you about stuff and you would do some research and you're kind of doing, trying to do your own thing.
Yeah.
And then I got a call from a hotel in Texas, the first one, which didn't fall through, didn't follow through and kind of went away. And then it's just, it's crazy because, I'm a little superstitious, but not crazy. But I think, sometimes things happen for a reason. And the excitement that you got just about the first one, where was that one at?
That one was actually in the Woodlands. It's north of Houston.
Okay. So yeah, that one didn't go through. You never know. They might have a company that does a bad job and they end up calling us back. You never know.
Yeah.
But then we get the one in Sweetwater that calls. Mm-hmm. And I asked you hey, is this something that you might be interested in doing? And that one, from the moment I quoted the job to getting a check in my hand with a deposit was a matter of a couple weeks. So kind of worked out.
They wanted it.
They really want it. They
need it.
Yeah. and I already told them. So, I know we haven't gotten that into depth about it because we've been, touching base on other stuff and you're here for the demo and stuff.
Right.
But I did tell you that I wanted to talk some logistical parts of it on the podcast. So I did tell them already that it's subbed out kind of.
Okay.
I did tell them that, you're coming here to do a demo to Florida and then going back and, to make sure, that everything's good. Mm-hmm. And on that front, I think you did a pretty good job. And that situation with the ring, you already know what to do to not have that situation. But so they know what to expect and stuff. And really, they just want to make sure that we're overseeing stuff. So that's what we were talking about where, you're going to send pictures and just kind of take account of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just really important for the peace of mind of the hotel.
Well, that's what we want to give them. We want to give them that peace of mind. That way they know that they got a solid product. Nothing's, it's going to be right.
Yeah. And especially when they're calling out of state, they are already under the impression that whoever's in my area is just not good enough kind of a thing. Or maybe there's just not enough refinishers, That's also a problem. So I know that they know that we're in Orlando, and they called us anyway. So, but I'm glad that, you're trying to do your own thing. And I know you were out of the industry for a while.
Yeah, I was.
And if you don't mind sharing what you were doing, between the gaps. So kind of give them the time frame of And I know we talked about this when we did it remotely, but
Yeah.
you know, just kind of reiterate for people who don't know.
Yeah. So when I got into the industry, I was really young, probably my early 20s. You know, that's a while back. So, you know, time frames might be off a little, but I was in my early 20s when I first started. I liked it. It was something that I was interested in. You know, I tried to do my best every single time. So I just continued. I started out with one company and then I moved. So I went to another one, and then it never faded for me. It was pretty intense, you know, on learning, because I love to learn the tricks that the older guys knew in the industry and stuff like that. And then I had the opportunity to like get more skills in another job, so I went ahead and did that. And what I wound up doing was I wound up getting involved in building high-speed turbos. So that was really cool. It was like oil-free, so it was like this kind of newer technology, and I wanted to get into it and see what it was. And then there was a great benefit package, so I was like, I got to do this, more opportunity, you know, to go, you know, to climb up.
And when did you start that? Like what year?
On which one? On the refinishing or the turbos?
On the turbos.
That was around 2011, 12, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was exciting. It was new, and I mean, I liked it. It was fun. You know, it was a lot of things to learn, a lot of new skills to pick up. But hey, it was new, so everybody was excited about it, and it was just a vibe. Mm-hmm. It was really cool. And then after that, there was a lot of downsizing,
mm-hmm.
you could say. So then I went ahead and I left that, went on, did a couple more things, and then I turned back around. But I never stopped spraying, you know, even on the side or something like that, or you know, because I did other things too, like furniture, stuff like that. So I just kept spraying, mm-hmm. all types of stuff. Did an interior wall, rolled some walls, did all kinds of things, and it always came up, you know, back to some type of coating, some kind of application like that.
And when did you first do refinishing? I know you told me you were younger when you first started, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
About how old were you?
Let's see. I think I was about 22, 23?
So early 20s.
Yeah.
Okay. And the company that you work for, are they still around?
No.
No?
No, they're not around. I did Google search,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't see anything on them. So I was like, well, I guess they're not around anymore. And it's been around. I don't think I signed like a non-compete or anything like that, you know, because, I mean, there's got to be a limitation to that, but I'm not sure the details on it. But when I did that, I was like, man, I don't want, you know, something to come up and then they say, oh, well, you know, oh, you can't do this or whatever. You know, competition sometimes in this industry gets fierce.
Yeah.
And they just say, oh, man, this company's not worth anything. Or, oh, and I steer clear of all that. So I just try to establish my own thing, do my own thing, do it to the best of my ability, keep it friendly, keep it professional. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and I mean, that's good. You know, you're trying to keep things professional and just always trying to better yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think those are like very, very important things. And so, one thing I wanted to ask you is like, so when you started, what was the hardest part for you? Like, as far as like the actual process.
The hardest part was probably the prep.
Okay.
The prep was the hardest thing because that's the thing that's the most important. I mean, it's all equally important, mm-hmm. but it's very important to get a proper prep. Whenever you're using your materials, like knowing how to use your materials the best you possibly can is key. because you'll save on materials. You're not gonna fumble around, waste time, make mistakes, use something easier to use when you were using something really hard. So that was one of the most difficult parts of it. But other than that, the spraying was not that difficult. But you can tell over time that once you start spraying, you'll notice that over time you can see where you've sprayed. You can actually see the pattern, and then you figure out how to smooth it out, figure it out, get rid of shadows and stuff like that. So I mean, it takes hand-eye coordination. Definitely some balance and some skill. So that's pretty good.
And yeah, so I think it's very interesting to see people's backgrounds and like where they started and stuff. Because like our situation is pretty unique. Like especially in this industry, second generation companies don't really exist. I mean, there's franchises and stuff. I think there's 2 big ones, and then like one medium sized one. Like Miracle Method's the biggest. Save Step is like commercial big, and then like Surface Specialists, I think I see them a lot. But as far as like purely second generation, where like our parents don't do anything in the business anymore, like I think that's like strictly unique to us. So like we grew up in it, and it's always been a part of the family business, Right. So it's like it's cool for me to hear like how people got into it and stuff like that, and then what you started doing after, which is kind of like similar but not really. This is like in a different realm. So that's pretty interesting. And so so I just feel like it's good to have you here and everything, and and kind of just tell people things that you're looking forward to as far as the project and stuff like that. Maybe give them like a little bit more insight about yourself, stuff like that.
So one of the things that I'm looking forward to is, getting into the commercial side. I'm really excited about that, getting into because it's a different realm. You can spray residentials, and they're 2 totally different creatures. Residential, I love doing residential. It's perfectly fine because I love giving back, and I like seeing the person excited about what they have. That they're outdated, old, ugly. Sometimes even if it's a rental property, it might get a little nasty. You can go in and. Okay.
I got a call, so let's go ahead and answer that. Thank you for calling the Bathtub Guys. This is Daniel. May I help you? Hello.
Tubs, we call refinished or repainted in my home.
Can you go ahead and repeat that for me?
Is this bathtub, guys?
Yes.
I was just calling to have 2 tubs in our home that need to be repainted or resurfaced or whatever what you call that.
Okay. And can you send some pictures to me so I can get you a quote on that?
Yeah, I could send. I already took some pictures. I could send them.
Okay. Well, if you could send them to me, I can get you a quote like that. Okay.
Okay. Where do I send it to?
You can send it to the same phone number that you called.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty.
What? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye. So we're we're working here, So I thought it would be cool, and I told Trinidad this before we started. If a call comes in from a customer, it'd be cool just so you to see the type of phone etiquette, and if people ask questions that are more in depth. This guy was just looking for a quote, which I end up sending him the detailed breakdown of the process anyway. But when they ask specifics or something like that, that's something of value, and that can kind of help steer the conversation around a little bit. But go back to what you were saying. You were saying that you were excited about getting into commercial.
Yeah, definitely excited getting into commercial. Because like I said, there were 2 totally different creatures. Was a recap on it. And doing in the residentials, I loved seeing how we could take something that was like old, outdated. Sometimes, like I said, even nasty in some rental properties, because sometimes they do damaging them a lot. So
or they do a bad job.
Yeah, that too. You know, fly-by-nighters.
Yep.
Will go in there.
Or maintenance crews in the apartment complex that think that they could do it themselves with a Rust-Oleum kit. You run into everything, man. So.
Yeah, those kids, they'll definitely fool you.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. They come out decent.
Well, if a professional has to use a Rust-Oleum kit, it'll last if they have the other stuff. What they don't tell you is that you still need to etch it. You still need to prep the surface properly. You still need to make sure soaps come and all that stuff is clean. But the way that they market these things is that just roller it on and it's fine. A brand new tub. That's just not how it works.
Yeah. Oh, quick and easy. It's like nothing is quick and easy. Believe me. After you've been doing something and it's a little difficult, yeah, it'll get quick and easy. But no, it's not. There's a lot of steps and a lot of process that they don't tell you. You know, I'm not trying to badmouth them, but it's like, come on, you know.
Well, even us who have done a lot of commercial work, since we're kind of talking about commercial,
right?
I mean, Cabana Bay fucking stumped us in the beginning. I'll admit it. I don't know if the guys will because some people have pride and stuff, but it stumped us in the beginning because not only did we have to figure out how the hell we're going to do this diamond pattern that they requested.
Yeah.
We're the type of people that we know we're going to figure it out, so we'll just say, "Yep, we'll do it." And then we'll go and figure it out. And it took time. I was on vacation half of it. So Alex, my brother, actually researched what to use. And he called people. And in the middle of the trip, he calls me. He's like, I figured it out. We're going to buy the machine. We're going to test it out. And we tested it out and it worked. And you know what? The day that we found out the diamond pattern thing worked was the day before we did it. Like the day before we started on a Sunday.
That's not unusual. It's just a lot of people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's really not.
It was fucking crunch time. And then we get there. Mind you, I'd asked them if every single tub was in the same shape.
Yeah.
Because we had done some tubs that didn't have that gel coat on the floor. The first two that we did, the first two demos did. One of them didn't. And we're like, well, are they all kind of like the first few? And they're like, well, they're more like this one. I don't think all of them have been refinished before. Well, we show up. First 15 come in because we're doing 15 a day at this place. They all have it. So now we're starting a project and it's twice as much work at that point. And so we don't know how this is going to react with the material. So obviously your instinct as the refinisher is we need to get this thing off. Yeah, especially when it's gel coat. You don't know if it's going to react or, cause it to not adhere. I don't know if there's silicone in that thing. I don't know. So our instinct is to take it off. It took about 2 months for us to realize that shit is not coming off. And we were taking it off. But
this is the same coat we're talking about, the one you called me, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't just call you. I called Midwest. I called the guy from Bathar and asked him if he's ever encountered something like that. I called everybody.
Yeah.
Because I am not afraid to admit when I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
What to do. And it's not like we were ever puzzled. It was just, we were kind of thrown for a loop a little bit because normally something that thick that's hard to get off is factory stamped on there. And that's what we thought at first because it's such a natural looking thing. But a guy that started working with us last year named Damon, he's the one that told us that this is gel coat and he's seen it. And apparently it's very common, especially in the Midwest and stuff. Where he worked, he says that he sees that all the time. Well, I haven't seen that much.
Yeah.
And it's different than the regular material. It's just a very thick, almost semi-transparent coat on the floor, and it gets really hard. It's usually used for marine coatings.
And that's what I thought it was. When you told me, I was like, man, this has got to be some type of marine coat.
It definitely is. Yeah. But the problem with it is it's not designed for the bathtub refinishing industry, and with the type of cleaners and stuff that they use, it's starting to yellow at this hotel, and the bottom of the floor looks disgusting, and they're renting these rooms at a premium, so I can kind of understand their concern of not getting this thing situated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they definitely want to give them a good experience. They don't want to pay all this money and then, well, they're not going to come back if they stay this time and don't say anything. They're not going to come back.
Yep.
You just won't know by them not ever showing up again. And you want them to keep coming back. You want to have a good experience,
Yeah, and especially now with the COVID consciousness and everybody thinking about what safety precautions as far as health.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that also is perception. You know, like people, it doesn't matter how well you clean something. If it looks dirty, people are just going to assume it's dirty. And that's kind of the issue at Cabana Bay is like, I could see certain types of guests going into the bathroom and seeing it yellow on the floor and just kind of being like, this is nasty. This hotel's unsanitary. Start writing bad reviews. And so, like, I don't blame them for wanting to redo their tubs, but we were kind of thrown for a loop as far as removing the gel coat. What we started doing was just sanding the thing off with like 60 grits. If we can get our hands on 40, we would try to do that.
So I'm glad you brought that up. How many rolls were y'all going through?
I mean, per tub, 5 to 7. It was crazy.
Rolls or discs?
Sheets.
Oh, sheets?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, possible.
No. There's like sheets of sandpaper.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy because, and then the dust that it would make, insane. The bathroom would be flooded in dust. So we started recently just giving everything like a lighter pass. Well, here's the steps. This is how it progressed. So we started with the regular D-wall variable speeds.
Yeah.
60 grit. If we can get our hands on 40s, we'd use 40s. And then just kind of sand the hell out of the thing. And then we would see the factory stamps underneath. So we know, hey, like we're on the porcelain, we don't have to sand anymore. And obviously the residue and all that stuff is gone. So you know you're actually on the tub floor. And then we started getting these bigger sanders.
Yeah.
And they had like twice the horsepower. But we stopped using them because these guys were kind of abusing them. And only one of my guys, Ralph, he's the only one that really took care of his. But it just became evident after 2.5, 3 months that like we needed to do something drastic, or else we're just not going to be processing this many units. And we were processing the 15 a day, but 7 or 8 o'clock was when we were finishing.
Yeah, that's a long time for the guys.
11-hour days for a few months, it takes tolls on people, man. And mentally, physically, and then you start, being pessimistic about even going, and it sucks.
Yeah, it can cause burnout, and you get down in the dumps about it.
Yeah,
because it seems like there's no end.
Yeah, well, it's especially during the week. I mean, you're there at 8 in the morning, working all day. You get out at 8. You get home. Guess what? Time to go to bed to get up the next day, and it's very mundane, and it sucked. So recently, we were just like, hey. It has like Safe Step did these. I'll name them because I don't care. They did it 7 years ago. It lasted pretty long for what it was.
Hey, 7 years. I mean,
yeah, they saved the hotel a fortune,
and it was hard to get off.
It was hard to get off. It was on.
It shows you that they did something good.
But at that time, I believe Safe Step did their non-skid differently, and that was before their diamond pattern and all that stuff. And this was like the gel coat, and then they would feather the sides, which I'm not a fan of that. And it's because it leaves the seams of the material exposed. And no matter how well you blend it, when it starts to discolor over time, it just looks like the bottom of half of the tub is stained and dirty. It looks bad. But for what it was, it lasted.
Too bad you don't have a picture of that.
I might have one somewhere, but I don't think I have one on this computer, unfortunately. I would have to upload it and pull it up and stuff.
It'd be good to get a visual on that. Yeah,
maybe in post I could put one up on the screen, when I'm editing it. I'll try to do something like that.
Oh, maybe later.
Yeah.
Just in case somebody else runs across this and says, "Hey, this is that stuff that Daniel and Trinidad were talking about on the show." Now I know what to do.
Actually, you know what? That's a good idea. Let me go ahead and see if I could find on my phone somewhere what this gel coat stuff kind of looks like.
Yeah.
And then what I'll try to do is see if I could just send it to my email and then just pull it up real quick. Because it is something, like you said, we're kind of just going off the cuff.
Yeah.
But it is something that might be valuable to some people so that they know what to look for, like you said. What to look for when they're doing this kind of a thing.
Yeah, they can identify that. They can identify it and have an idea of a solution. Even if they don't want to use it, it's fine. We can just put it out there like that.
Yeah, let me see if I think I have a picture in here somewhere of that. I mean, I definitely have it in here somewhere. Okay, I found it. Okay. So this one's not too bad. This one's not yellowing a lot.
Yeah.
But it is just ugly. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send it to our email. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. Yeah, I think it'd be good for people to see it. But yeah, so Cabana Bay kind of threw us for a loop with that. And so we weren't expecting that. But, you know, we're kind of the people where, again, like, we're not going to let it stop us from doing what we're there to do. So.
Oh, you just regroup, figure it out, and then proceed. And
take the sacrifice of like, hey, well, we're going to have to bust our ass a little bit more than we thought to get this thing done. So that's kind of what happened. And then, you know, burnout did start. I had people leave. People who have been with us for years left. But that's the kind of, I think of projects like this as a test. You know, it's a test for us and to see who's really with us and who's willing to put in the work. And one of the guys that really blew me away was Ralph. And I talk about it with you on the regular. I mean, Ralph put in the work. He, just before we get to the picture, that's the picture of the tub there.
Okay.
But Ralph started spraying last year.
Yeah.
And we let him make all the mistakes. Part of learning, and this is for everybody out there who's listening, part of learning this bathtub refinishing craft, it's a craft. You need to learn it.
It is.
But part of learning is making mistakes. And it's very hard for customers to accept that, like, yeah, people need to learn. Obviously, why would they accept that? They're paying for a service and it needs to be done. And that's why a lot of companies, in my opinion, offer a 2-day service so that they can do the job and then fix any little thing. Because it's easier to fix small mistakes. Even when you're new. If there's a run, you can fix it the next day, no problem.
Yeah, when you give them a 2-day turnaround, it does give you leeway. It doesn't have as much pressure on the technician to get it right the first time, because sometimes, you know, when things happen, yeah, you may have to wait for the next day, and that's why you just got to do the best that you possibly can. And over time, you're not going to be perfect. You know, you're not even really going to be any good the first couple times.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just true. It's fact.
That is true.
You know, and you're going to just hone your skills over time. So that's not going to, I mean, it's something that has to be, you have to invest time in it. Number one, you have to like it. You have to be interested in it. You have to actually want to do it. You can't just, you know, hey, I got 1 through 10, follow it, and it's going to be perfect.
Well,
it won't be.
When we ran this thing out of our house, Ralph came and practiced before we put him out in the field to spray. And then we got the office and kind of situated everything. And as we grew, he just got more and more interested and wanted to do it more and more. And he would come into the shop on his weekends after working a full 5 days. Because here at Bathtub Guys, we don't do 2-day unless it's absolutely needed. We try to train the guys to do it right the first time, you know?
Yeah.
And then not have to go back. And as a business, there's a lot of benefits to that.
That's what makes sense.
Exactly. But there are some companies like Miracle Method that they're a 2-day minimum. And I get it. It's like a day and then a half day. And then if there's anything wrong, anything needs to be buffed. I'm sure that it cuts down on callbacks because they have that little chance to fix things. You know what I mean? Even if they need to give it a partial recoat. If it's already masked, it's just about giving it a light sanding and you're done.
Yeah, I don't know their process, but if they're doing the 2-day turnaround, and they're sending their technicians out there and they leave the paper up, then yeah, there would be no problem with going back and fixing things, and then it should look great.
It should be perfect after the second time.
It should look spectacular.
But we try to do everything right the first time, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and sometimes we have to go back, and that's just the cost of doing business. But Ralph would work his 5 days. And then, you know, I would have to schedule his callbacks because there were some. When you're learning, there's callbacks. People pretend like they're perfect all the time. It's just not true. And part of the reason why we have really good reviews is because we're willing to go back and fix stuff. Even stuff that we know is out of warranty, I always give the customer the benefit of the doubt because I just believe it's good business. If somebody just paid to have their tub done and you know, they don't paint tubs every day. And this is what people forget. And it's something that gets me upset when people don't just honor the fucking thing. At least do it once and tell them, this is what we do. Hey, I know something happened here. It wasn't us, but we're going to fix it anyway. These people don't paint tubs every day. And they might have just gone off an 8-hour shift and been like, oh, it looks so beautiful, and touched it. And what are you going to do? You're going to charge them $150 for $200 or $300, be a dick about it? Mm-hmm. You're kind of being a dick about it. Realistically, you tell them, and trust me and believe me that once you go and fix it, that one time you tell them, hey, you know something that somebody did here, they're going to just be so grateful that you went back and fixed it that they may never call you back. And I was talking to you about this. Our callbacks, when we go back and fix it as a courtesy, like 98% of them never call back again. They just, sometimes when people are just getting stuff done, they screw it up a little bit. You price your things accordingly. That's what I think. Yeah.
Well, you demonstrated good customer service, and right, things do happen. Things do happen, but that's why you talk to your customer. And you let them know, hey, these are the things that need to be done. This is the time it needs to be left alone. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's more than ready to be used. Jump in the shower, do that, except for the hair dye.
Yeah, well, even if they read everything and see everything, again, somebody might not really be paying attention. They're like just so enamored by how good it looks. And I know it's not our fault as refinishers. Yeah. But at the same time, you have to have some level of care about their situation, and
you do.
Yeah, and that's all about customer service. Because if we didn't do that, if we didn't honor the warranties the way we do, our Google rating wouldn't be as high as it is. People wouldn't be writing me reviews, and also you could use that as leverage for reviews. Tell people, like, this wasn't us. We'll fix it as a courtesy if you guys write positive feedback, because we're coming back and fixing it for free, essentially. And people will do that.
Yeah, when you do that, they think, oh, wow, because I know that they're worried about it. They're like, oh, my God, I just paid, $400 plus for this job. Am I going to be charged another full $400 plus?
Yeah, they don't know, and they're scared. Yeah. And that's why a lot of them just don't tell the truth about it. A lot of them are just scared that they're going to get charged.
Well, no, and they're nervous. They're nervous when they're calling, and they're nervous, and then when they get nervous, what happens? Some of them, they rage out on you. Yeah. They rage out and, oh, my God, you should have done this.
Well, I've literally had customers where I'm like, hey, that wasn't us. And right at that moment, they just start going, oh, F you and all this bullshit. And they'll start going off on me. And then I'm like, hey, calm down. They're like, yeah, don't tell me to call. And I'm just like, we're going to fix it for free. And they're like, oh, really? And I'm just like, yes. I'm just letting you know that if this happens again this way, we're not going to fix it because it wasn't us. But I will fix it as a courtesy this time.
So when you go back and fix something for the courtesy, what do? You just reinstate the warranty fully?
We do it from the date that it was started. So if we're fixing something as a courtesy a month after, the warranty is still valid from when it was originally done. I don't start the warranty from when we went and repaired it. This is a courtesy repair. And obviously, we try to do it as cost effective as possible for us because we are going back for free, essentially. So if it's a spot repair and everything else around it's holding up, we're repairing the spot. We're not going to give it a full refinish when it doesn't need it.
Yeah, and I was asking that question for refinishers and customers, Potential customers, they might run across this podcast and they're like, oh, my God, is this going to be a one-time thing? And something goes wrong, and I got to pay another full price.
No. We fix it here at BathTubGuys. I feel like that's just a good way of doing business. I feel like, again, I know people don't even know that this exists.
A lot of people don't.
Exactly. And so people don't know how to treat stuff. And it's different because when you paint a wall, you give them some touch-up paint. So they touch it. They just touch it up with a brush, and it looks great, and it blends right in. When you're doing a tub, people just don't really know. And then another thing is, we tell people to wait 24 hours to use it, but sometimes it feels dry to the touch. And you put too much pressure and it's still wet underneath because it dries in layers, but they don't know that. Mm-hmm. So they might screw it up.
And especially in a humid place like Florida.
Yeah.
I dealt with that yesterday in that demo. I was like, oh my God, this Bondo's taking a minute to dry. It's just so humid.
So real quick, now that I have the image up here, this was a tub at Cabana Bay before it was done. This one, I think, had a partial refinish on the floor. It still looks pretty white, but some of them have, yellowing and stuff going on. But I kind of just wanted to highlight this texture on the floor. And I don't know if you could really see that.
I see it.
Yeah, I know you can see it. I'm trying to see if I can zoom it in for the Okay, yeah, it's on the screen. So it's kind of like an orange peel resemblance, and it has a bunch of little like divots and stuff, and that's the non-skid that they have there, and it's gel coated on. But Miracle Method or Safe Step now, they do the diamond pattern thing, and
How thick would you say that stuff was?
oh, it's thick. I mean,
Like 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch?
a little bit thinner than that. I mean, it's millimeters, but still there. It's
Okay.
it's relatively thick.
Just to give an idea for the people that are watching that, how if they were doing this job and they were a refinisher, exactly how much would they apply? Because you said you were using 60 grit. You guys were having to grind on it.
Oh yeah, no,
So that's like pressure applied, and that's what they need to understand. Some people that don't understand this industry, there's a lot of work when you run across stuff like this. Like that's the entire length of the tub, right?
Yeah, this easily would take about an hour just to sand, and then
And an hour of sanding is not just like an hour of paperwork.
no, that's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and over the same area, and then the sander starts to heat up and it gets really hot, and then
you have to turn them off.
the motors start burning out on you. It's crazy. I mean, this is not something.
That's not the norm.
Yeah, and I also don't ever recommend you do this. I recommend that if you see a gel coat on there, test the area with some acid. If the etch is not going to eat through it, you tell the people, I'm not taking this off unless you pay me an extra $200 or $300, because this is, I mean, one tub would easily take about 5 to 6 hours, and one tub is usually a 2 or 3 hour job.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes 5 to 6 hours to do from start to finish just one. We work differently in hotels because we kind of work a system where we have people go and sand, and then they divide the rest of the prep work, and then it ends up working out to about 9 to 10 hours of work when we're doing something like this. But now what we're doing is we're using a 60 to get the paint off around the corner. So see if I can get my cursor over there, so I can just kind of point out what I'm talking about. It's kind of laggy over here. Just give me a second, bear with me.
All right.
Let me see. I can't really get it right now. Sometimes this happens with this because I have everything wireless, and it has like a little delay, and then I can't find the cursor on the other side of the screen. But I think it froze, honestly. So, but this ring around here where the wall is, right?
Uh-huh.
There's about maybe a foot of material of paint that they actually refinish all around. And it's like a little ring around the tub. And so what we tell the guys to do is get a 60 and just sand it all off, because it's coming off. Again, since the seams of the paint are exposed, it's kind of brittle on there. It'll just flake off. So that's what we tell the guys to do for that. And then we're going over it very lightly with a 220 just to put a little bit of extra abrasion on there. And then we're just refinishing it. The glaze that we put is pretty thick, so it fills in a lot of the little crevices and stuff. But realistically, because we're putting the diamond pattern over it, the diamond pattern just is the first thing your eyes go to, and you don't even notice the little texture underneath unless you're looking for it. But most people would think, realistically, that that's a factory stamp. So we were just kind of overkilling it before, and now we're just doing, the best we can under the circumstances, and sometimes, yeah, you're fine. And sometimes that's just part of it.
A little dry throat there.
No, you're fine. Sometimes that's just, that's part of it is figuring out what you're going to do when the problem arises. But this is something that if we weren't at Cabana Bay for 2.5 months, we wouldn't have figured out. So that's why I always tell people, just say fucking yes and figure it out. And then once you're in the project, if you can't do it, then you can't do it. But we take on a lot of projects and we're successful because we take a lot of risk doing stuff that it's not that we don't know, but it's because you can't really fully learn it until you're in there doing it on a day-to-day. You know what I mean? You're always learning in this industry.
Oh, always. No one. Excuse me.
You're fine.
No one in this industry is going to know everything. There's just people that have ran across different things and found different techniques to use, different materials, different tools, things like that to use to make it a lot easier. You know, and they should like talk like we do, pass on the information that you're doing. It's not like you're giving secret sauce away. You know, there's very little of that. That's all. That's maybe 1/10%, probably.
Yeah, it's the amount of actual secret stuff that's proprietary is so small. Everything is out there for the taking, and people who gatekeep is just I hate that. I think it's very annoying. I talk about pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I'm very hesitant to share is the jacuzzi situation. And I've talked about why it's not really my process and I didn't come up with it, and it's such a super niche that I don't think I should share it. But everything about refinishing as a whole, the process, even general business advice, I think is just free for the taking. I think it's good of me to share that with other people. It legitimizes the industry.
Yes, it does, because a lot of people, they won't say it out of fear. They won't say what they know or what idea they come up with. You know, there's a lot of ideas out there. People are just gonna come up with something and try to make it work. That's fine. That's what we do. But when they don't talk to each other and they keep it a secret, like I've called many places that sell refinishing products, and I start asking questions, and I kind of get like this. I've gotten this phrase a lot. Well, if you've ever shot bathtubs before, oh, well, if you've ever resurfaced before, oh, if you ever reglazed, refinished before, it's all the same. Well, we know that's not true. That's not true. Some have different ratios. Some are, like the product we used yesterday, 1-to-1. It was cool. I liked it. I didn't have any issues with that product. Other ones use 4-to-1, 2-to-1. It's something that's, you can't just blanket code it. You can't just say, hey, it's all the same, because it's not.
But it's pretty similar.
I mean, some of the processes are similar, but it's not all the same the way they're making it sound. Like, basically, they're just saying, hey, just buy my stuff and just use it, whatever. And they're hoping that you're going to just spray it and it's going to look fine. But what they're not telling you is, hey, you need to use it this way or this time. But they're thinking, oh, well, it's not my problem. That guy can just figure it out.
Yeah.
Think of over time how long that will keep this industry back, down, and not progressing.
Well, one of the problems that I have with the manufacturers of material in general is the lack of proper education on their products, how to properly use them, how to properly mix them, ratios, stuff like that. Different ways to mix it for desired outcomes. That's different too. Because I have heard people say you could put more catalyst in top coat and it'll come out shiny or whatever, and it's like it's kind of good to know those things. But as far as the process as a whole, it is pretty much the same for a good finished product, right? You want to make sure you have a nice etch on there, clean everything up, do general repairs, primer, top coat, and however you get there.
Well, process is pretty much the same.
Yes.
But technique, and everyone has their own style, their own way, how much product they use, how much air they're using, what stage they're using, as far as the machine, everything, it's going to come out all different, Some people like to spray thinner, thicker, there's slight differences, but that's when you've been spraying for a while and you know these things. So when maybe those places that are selling these products are just talking to the average Joe. Yeah. But there's guys that have been doing this for a long time.
Like we were talking about, a lot of these refinishers are fly-by-nighters and or general handymen who just do other stuff and just kind of offer it, and they don't have the most highest skill set, and they just want something that they can grab and go and just shoot. And unfortunately, they kind of outnumber the ones that are doing a kick-ass job and are actually taking this as a serious business. And our job as refinishers is to try to set quality standards to the best of our ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do. We try to set that. We try to elevate that standard, because there's the standard, which is just doing the bare minimum.
Yep.
And then there's the ones that go above and beyond, like yourself, your company, you know, and me. I try to do that every single time. I mean, it might sound like overkill, but no, it's not. It's my work. It's my product. It's my finished end result. And I want them to be absolutely happy with it, 100% satisfied. That's what I want. Aim for every single time.
And that's what I want you to, because realistically, like the project in Texas, we could do it. But I want you to get that experience, and I want you to learn. And I also want you to know, like, you know, because our goal is to do 4 a day over there. But hey, man, if you need to do 4, and then, you know, the next day do 2, one day because you got to go and touch some stuff up. The fact that you're willing to go back and fix it is what I need. You know, I need the hotel to be satisfied, especially if I'm not going to be there the whole time. So I might be able to go for a little bit for the first couple, you know, days or something, but I might not be able to be there the entire time.
I don't think you, because you got other things going on.
I got other things going on.
Yeah,
so.
the possibility of you being there all the time is
exactly
is no.
But I need somebody who's willing, and all, you know, acknowledging when you don't do something right is half the equation too. The demo wasn't completely perfect. It was really good, but we discussed it already, and you know what to do.
Well, there's you know, doing it in the environment that we did, and
that's
hey, there's a lot of insects over here, so
yeah,
I didn't know that before I came. It's my first time in Florida.
Yeah, when you're outside too, which is another thing.
Yeah, so it was a little the environment. It was definitely different.
Yeah.
You know, because there was less control in that environment. So I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and then the little area that was a little rough, but that's stuff that I just know that you see that tub like that, and you're gonna go back and just touch it up, fix the area, and the hotel's gonna be happy. It was taken care of, and that's what I need. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I chose that one, because you gave me the choice.
Yeah,
you and Alex were like, hey, any one of these 3 you want to do. And I was like, let's get the worst one.
Yeah.
Let's get the worst one, and that way you can see. Because I knew that would show you guys, hey, this was the worst one, because that thing was beat to hell.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, let's do this one.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And it came out good. I think it looks good. I just think, you know, like that little portion there, but we already discussed that, and you already know what to do to mitigate that and to not have it happen. And you're never going to be fucking perfect. In Cabana Bay, like, we were having tubs with all sorts of issues when we first started. First week there, all the tubs were getting like solvent trap, where like the gases are escaping after the like underneath, and then making little air bubbles. And
was it going too fast?
I don't think that's what it is. I honestly think that it has to do with the
that gel coat on the bottom.
No. With that specifically, it had to do with the dry time of the reducer we were using. Our reducer was too slow. We bumped it up to a medium reducer, and it almost completely went away. Sometimes you get a little bit. It's inevitable when you're doing so many. But.
And like I said, down here you guys deal with a humidity.
Yeah.
Humidity thing, hot temperatures. The material is going to act, different ways. Like when I go out there, that's in the north part of Texas. Well, if you're from the south part of Texas, you're going to call it anything as the north, right? But in that part of Texas, it gets cold, man.
Yeah.
Like it gets really cold at night, especially in the wintertime, and it might heat up during the day, and you just never know. It's Texas, you know?
Yeah.
I mean.
And yeah, so again, like, you know, for me as somebody who's trusting you with this project and stuff, I just need to know, you know, that you're going to go and fix it and kind of be an extension of us. You know, we how we do our customer service, how we do our processes and stuff. And you already told me you're going to be thorough, you're going to send pictures and all that. So that gives me peace of mind with that.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I'm dealing not necessarily on projects like this, but dealing on other projects. You know, I've been QC, I've been QA, I've been all these other things. You know, there's numerous things, but I'm not really trying to get all into that, because I could have a list of things that I've done, right? Because I'm a little bit older than most guys in the industry. So, I mean, hey, there's another couple of older guys that I know, but I mean, I've done other things, so on other projects, and I just pull from all those other things that I've done and implement in here what needs to be done. So that's what I do. But the whole reason for coming down here was to show you the demo and to tell you because we can talk on the phone, but it's not like this. We're doing this face to face.
Yep.
And also, like I told you yesterday, I'm doing this for, my future team, because I want to build a team, and the way I want to build it it's totally unique to me. And I want this industry to be something that guys can be proud of again, to actually be craftsmen and everything that it entails, to be proud of what they are. So when their son or their daughters, wives, friends, uncles, cousins, family, when they look at them, they can say, hey, this guy did this. He's part of this. That way you don't feel like you're just some cheap labor guy.
Yeah, and I get that sentiment. I'm just going to tell you something that's kind of it's kind of funny, but it's like it's all about perception with stuff like that too. I know we were talking the other day about how you don't want people to be like embarrassed or something when they say that they're a bathtub refinisher, and I get the sentiment, but people get like that even about plumbers. Plumbers make boatloads of fucking money.
They also got to know
Go ahead.
high math too.
Yeah.
They got to know trigonometry to be a master. I don't know about Florida, but I know Texas.
There's a lot of stigma with people who do labor work in general.
Yeah, there is,
because people just assume that they're the fly-by-night types, the types that hang out at Home Depot, the types that like are out there asking for work in the front. They just assume that they're just not taking it serious. They pick up the odd job here and there, and they feel that way up until they need something.
Well, yeah. Well, there's that thing, and there's also that thing about the access that we were talking about. Like those guys, particular guys that we're talking about. The ones that were mentioned hanging out in front of Home Depots, or we'll just call them big box stores, whichever one they want.
Yeah.
Those guys, hey, wherever they're from, they probably are a skilled person in that particular field that they're doing.
Yeah, they might be really good.
Just don't have the accreditations they need here. So, I mean, they're getting good quality work, but it's the whole thing about not being legit in the area where you're at, Like,
and some of that might just be lack of education on it, or maybe they're just, some people are really good at doing the work and they just aren't good at getting the work, Yeah. I've had guys like that. I mean, one of the guys that's working for us, he has his own company. He's had it for a while, and he's working with us because we can give him steady work, and he can't get that on his own. And, there's benefits to that. I mean, if you really are a jack of all trades and you know how to do everything with this business, like, you can stand to make some really good money, even as an employee, technically, or 1099 and contractor.
You can make a lot of money in this industry, and you can. It's just depending on which company you're going to get with, how you're going to be taught, basically your training, and if they're going to do it right, or if they're just going to be like, hey, it's fine, just go and shoot it. If it looks white, shiny, and clean, don't worry about it. Just hurry up and get out of there.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing that I'm really against. You say the thing about the perception, and plumbers and stuff like that. I did work in plumbing for a while.
Oh, yeah.
I hated it.
Oh.
Hey, shout out to all the plumbers that do it on a daily basis. Hey, man, that's some hard work. Like, I actually, I remember sitting on a roof with a guy. We were doing some, plumbing work up on the roof of this old apartment complex. And, oh, man. The guy sat down and he told me, hey, how do you like it? And I'm like, it's okay. And then he says, so what do you got? What do you mean? He says, man, well, we all got Hep C. And I'm like, what? Well, what are you talking about? Oh, man, yeah, man, it's just part of the job. I'm like, oh, man, I got to get out of there. It might have been the company, but I was like, I don't want to do this for very long, But that's why I say you got to be safe. You got to use protection equipment,
Yeah.
Especially in this industry, too.
Well, yeah, because this industry has a lot of particulates and stuff that can get into your respiratory system, be it just the fumes from the alcohol or acid or the actual material itself, and it's damaging. That stuff could be really damaging.
Yeah, it is, and that's what scared me about that guy. I'm like, no, man, I'm clean.
No,
like
what?
this guy's talking about having diseases and stuff like that. No,
The
but it's
guy
like
that-
what you're working with, and it's like, no, I'm clean, man. I'm a stay clean. I don't have nothing.
The guy that I was telling you about that worked with us, man, that man he would spray without a mask. And
That's ridiculous.
We bought him a $300 spray mask because I got one for one of my other guys. And he's like, I want one of those. And then I got him one.
He just thought it looked cool.
Yeah, he didn't use it at all. Brand new.
Why would you not want to look cool with a $300 mask on? Come
Stupid, man. And then he would just be like, oh, I think it's taking a toll on my health. It's like, no shit, man. You don't use a fucking mask. Like,
you got to use masks. You got to use gloves. You got to use spray suits. You got to, I mean, come on. It looks cool. You look like this guy, moon suit, man.
It's not just about it looking cool, though, but,
Well, no, actually, it is about the health. They don't take it seriously. PPE, proper equipment, I mean, I'm from Houston. A highly industrial area. There's all kinds of things over there. I mean, there's a place called the Houston Area Safety Council where you got to go to get, fit tested and stuff like that. You can fit test yourself. The fit test is something different. But I've sprayed in the industrial. So, yeah, you have to go over there. You have to get clean shaven. You have to do it. You have to, blow into this tube, and you have to elevate this little ball, and it has to stay in between here for like so many seconds or whatever it is. But no, man, there's like real stuff. And I will say this, I'm not really trying to like down people, but they don't know about that part.
it's not their fault.
They don't know about that part, but they haven't. I mean, no, they've never even received OSHA training from any other companies or anything like that. They don't have cards. They've never been certified. They don't have these things. Stuff that I've done, yes. But I don't want to talk about that, right? It's like, let me just tell you to come on in here, be safe, do your craft, treat yourself well, respect yourself, use gloves, don't wipe off with lacquer thinner. I've had to do it because when I started out with half face, coming out looking like you got white eyebrows and white eyelashes,
I have a guy that likes to use the half mask because he just can't see really well out of the front little lens.
Yeah.
But again, he just drenches his face in alcohol. It's not good for you. But he moisturizes and stuff right after.
Yeah.
But it's not safe.
But still, it's going to soak into your skin, and it's going to accumulate over time. It's going to go to your liver. Like, one of the things, just talking about, like, protection equipment, depending on how you're spraying, if you're spraying in a confined environment and stuff like that, even though if you have the air washes and things like that going on, you should still wear hearing protection. Because there is certain chemicals that can make you go deaf. A lot of people don't talk about that, but it's true. And those are things that what I'm saying is like, they just think it's all about just getting a couple masks, buy a machine, buy some product, and go spray. Yeah, it can look good, but how long are you going to be able to do that? And you want to be able to get into this industry and do it for longevity. Yeah. And then if you're spraying in a commercial environment, you don't want to have the fumes all seeping out into the hallways.
With longevity, especially if you're putting time and effort into learning the skill.
Exactly.
Like, before you actually are able to make some serious fucking money or do your own thing, you're risking your health.
Yeah, you are.
So,
especially by cutting corners, a lot of guys they don't get the right
filters.
The filters, the cartridges, they don't look at it. And another thing, I wish, this is just a suggestion. I wish more refinishing places that sold refinishing equipment would put on there what is there for their product, the suggested filter and cartridge that they should use.
Yeah.
I wish that they would put that on there. I know that legally they're not required to do that, but I wish they would.
I think in the MSDS sheets, they suggest they have like the code of what level it dangers to your upper respiratory infection, and then you're supposed to take that number and apply it yourself. But yes, it would be easier if they just told you which ones to get.
Well, see, there's some guys that don't even know anything about MSDS.
Well, they've never had to pull them at all, yeah.
Well, they've never even been told. They've never heard of stuff like that. They just see a guy and says, hey, man, this is easy. You can spend a couple $1,000s and go over there, get this equipment, and you'll make tons of money. I mean, they're not telling them. And then it's risking their health, and then all of a sudden they're coughing, hacking, and they don't know why,
Yeah.
Hairspray girls.
Or they're having shortness of breath in the middle of the fucking night, and they don't know why. Coughing all the time.
It's scary.
And you feel congested. That's not good.
It's scary. You know, you can get, it can mess with your vision. It can do all kinds of things. You know, those half masks, that product is getting in your eyes.
Yeah.
It's soaking through, like your whole body is porous, and it's going to pull these products in. It's just going to suck everything in because you breathe through your skin also.
Yeah.
You know, so, but a lot of people don't talk about this. I know I talk about this with you all the time.
Yep.
We talk about all these type of things, and now we're finally doing it here on this podcast, and hopefully some guys are paying attention. Don't take the risk, man.
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Don't take the risk. Your health, it depends upon it.
So I wanted to touch base on, as far as your business, things that you have questions about, as far as, whether it's how to get clients, how to get commercial clients, specific stuff, And this is something that I feel like can help out people who are starting any type of business in general. Refinishing is what we do, so I would come at it from that realm.
Okay, so on the commercial side, what have been your experiences as far as what specifically are the major things that some of the larger companies are asking for as far as requirements for getting in to be able to perform our services?
Like legal?
Legal.
Okay, so legally, I mean, you have to have certificate of insurance. You have to have your W-9 in order. You have to have some sort of commercial insurance on your vehicles. In most cases, it's not always required. You have to have, you have to have your personal protection equipment. You have to have stuff. So a lot of the times they need MSDS sheets. Cabana Bay asks for them.
Yeah.
Because if we're leaving material in their room overnight, which we do, they will need to know the level of flammable that it is. And then they need to know what room it's in so that, something happens and they know how to direct properly and stuff like that. But that's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, as far as amounts of insurance, it differs from property to property.
Yeah, I know some ask for $1 million, some ask for $5 million.
Yeah.
Well,
$5 million is typically umbrella liability, which it covers all liability. And yeah, some properties want that. But this is something that I recommend you do. If they want you bad enough, do one of two things. Work the insurance cost into the quote, and you tell them, hey, I'm going to need to spend $500 a month on this insurance policy for you. So I need some relief here.
Needs to be worth it.
Either that or you need to call me enough to justify it. Or you ask for an affidavit for the insurance, and the claim that you make to them is, it's impossible for me as a tub refinisher to cause $5 million in damages. So I would ask for that affidavit if you would accept a lesser insurance for me, and they'll make an exception sometimes. I have had places, hotels that we work for, request an affidavit sheet from corporate, and they just kind of make the case that I just made, like, hey, they're not going to make that much damage. They're doing refinishing.
Right.
And they'll usually accept a lesser one. They usually have generalities because most of the time that they're hiring a contractor, they're hiring like people to do demo work, people to do like on-site stuff with electrical, and they can cause millions in damage. So their default is like, you should have about this much. Sometimes they won't budge. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Sometimes they won't budge. They're like, you need to have this policy. But again, you get a quote on it. You share them like, hey, this is something that's, if I'm just going to do maintenance with you, well, then I need this subsidized by some, like, I can't pay $500 a month if you're going to call me for a $300 job once a month. I'm losing money.
Oh, no.
I'm paying to do work for you.
Right.
At that point, you're losing money.
Yeah.
So.
And that's some of the things that they don't see. The average person doesn't see that part, and it's different when it's a privately owned hotel and one of the ones that are operated by the larger management property companies, so that's what you were talking about, right?
Yeah, I was talking about larger properties. Even some apartments are like that, but mostly hotels is what we do. So I'm just telling you, like, we've had instances where they will accept a lesser insurance, but sometimes they don't. And if that's the case, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and do it. But for smaller companies, and if they're not giving you enough volume to justify it, don't just say no. Like That's something that gets me upset. It's like people just will ignore it, and that looks so bad on your part. Tell them the issues that you're having and see if you guys can come and work to a solution. Logically speaking, if you tell any person that's reasonable, hey, you need to call me often enough to justify this, or I need it to be subsidized somehow, because if you call me once a month for a $300 job and the insurance costs me $500 a month, well, then I am literally not making any money. Well,
you're losing.
Any reasonable person will be like, okay, well, then we need to find a solution. And if that means they minimum call you for 4 when they call you, well, then that's what it means. But again, you got to weigh, is that worth it? Because even though it's $1,800 now, well, $500 of that is going purely to insurance. So is it worth it? Well, if they give you 15 or 20 at a time, then it's probably worth it.
Yeah. That was one of the things that I was thinking about. I was like, maybe I should have a minimum. I didn't come up with a number on smaller properties, because I still want to do them because, hey, it's the same thing.
When you get a COI, ask for the minimum, and then you could adjust accordingly from there.
That's good.
Pretty much it.
Idea.
And just tell them this is what I have right now. If you need adjustments, if you guys have an affidavit, because I can't really cause that much in damage. And then you get a quote first. Don't just tell them, hey, I need $5 million, because they'll change your policy tomorrow because they get commission off those things. The people who do like insurance brokers and stuff, they get commission off that. So they'll be like, oh, if you need $5 million, I'll do it right now. No, you tell them I need a quote. I need to know how much it's going to cost. And then if it's something reasonable, well, then part of doing business, you got to adjust your prices accordingly. But if it's something that's kind of out there, you need to make sure the property knows, if I get this insurance, like I need something in writing that I'm going to get called a certain number of times where I could send you a bill for the cost of it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question. So if a property is larger, we constantly run into this. You tell them your price. This is where it starts. If there's more work that is involved in it, obviously it's going to be more. Like if it has to be stripped or something like that, because there's a cost of materials, other things. Sometimes they want you to discount that thing so high that basically your profit is nothing. What do you think we should do to combat that?
You tell them no.
Flat out.
No. And if they ask, well, if you can't do it, you'd be like, well, if I'm not making any money, why would I work? Same reason with them. Why are you renting a hotel for $200 a night? If somebody wanted it for fucking $10 a night, are you going to give it to them just because they want it? No. You don't work unless you're making money. If you're too close to margin, you need to stick by your prices. We were told by Cabana Bay that we were $175 over the next highest bid. And we got the project anyway.
Well, this is going out on a limb, but I bet those other companies wouldn't have even dealt with the issue on the bottom of the tub like you guys did. They would just shot over it and then just called it a day.
They see the number of units and they instantly are like, big hotel doesn't want to pay, because a lot of big hotels don't want to pay. But that's their first thought, is like, no one's going to pay that much, so we need to lowball ourselves so that we can compete, because there's definitely people doing it cheaper because of the quantity. People can't fathom that a hotel that big would be willing to pay $300 per tub. They're not wrapping around their head. They think it's bullshit.
Well, it's just
not, but
it's just they haven't tried. And another thing is, this is a service, and each one is done individually. This is not like mass production. You're not setting up, this is not manufacturing. So there's labor involved. There's cost, there's materials, there's this. It's not just a machine just pumping these things out. You can't get a cheaper price like that.
Labor is not like, you can't mass produce labor the way you mass produce product. I mean, look at like the way Amazon's been getting lampooned, because the last few years, right? Because of the way that they've apparently been treating some of their staff. They try to treat the staff like robots, and people aren't. People have feelings, and people have emotion, and people have, they have like lives and stuff. And when you try to treat them like a machine, people get fed up and they start to revolt. And they start talking bad about you, and it ruins your image. And so, like, we're not working in fucking slave times, guys. I can't do a tub for $100 a tub. I can't do a refinishing like that. It's not practical. I've been
asked that.
Yeah. So
hey, can you do it for $100? I'm like, no.
Let me see. I'm trying to pull up a cost estimate that I've sent somebody.
Yeah.
Like a resort or something.
Mm-hmm.
And just so that you can get an idea of how we set it up, as far as pricing. Now, this is it's still outstanding. So if one of my competitors wants to see what I'm charging and try to undercut me, go the fuck ahead. I don't care. Because people look at what we do differently. Like, so here's the name of the property. Again, I don't really care if somebody sees what it is and what we're charging, because people consider us for different reasons in that it's not all about numbers all the time, guys. So that's a Hampton Inn and Suites in downtown Orlando to do the shower floor. So I'm quoting them $265. And this is like a regular quote that I would send somebody. If they needed something more formal, I do have something more formal that's like an informational packet, but this is that's just one that I have. Yeah. All right. So this is just one that I normally send people. Let me see if I can go down a little bit more so you guys can see the bottom. So I do put this little part that says terms. Estimated cost $265. Stripping will be an additional $50. I put that in there in writing so they have no questions. And then
because stripping should be extra. It should be more. It should be more because it just cost of material and time.
Yep.
Because it takes time to strip, and you never know what exactly you're stripping.
Yep. And then I put, we will require, 55 units per day. We'll bill on a net 30 basis so that they know. And we tell them, like, we'll need a deposit. If this is going to be done on, like, a on-call kind of a thing, then we wouldn't need a deposit for that. But we would have a minimum to show up. And that one didn't have it, but typically I would put a caveat in there that says that any work that's not listed would have to be change ordered and quoted individually or billed at hourly. Normally, I bill like $75 or $85 an hour for anything that's not on the work order. Mm-hmm. But it's up to you. I mean,
can you give me an example of that?
I mean, if they ask us to do tile, mm-hmm. and then we were just there to do tubs, and they're like, no, but we need to do the tile. Well, then I would bill them hourly for the tile because it wasn't agreed upon, on time. We're going to have to now we're doing more work than we anticipated. And so,
yeah, more time, more work, more material.
Exactly. And it's not what was anticipated. And all we charge, and it's going to end up being a lot more than it would have been if they would have told us. But it's because if I go to your property, mm-hmm. right, and you're telling me, Daniel, there's 4 tubs for you to do here today. Okay. Well, I come with the material for the 4 tubs and the crew for 4 tubs. But now you're telling me, no, there are 4 tub and tiles. Well, now I'm short of material and I'm short staffed. So if I got to pull people out of other places to get your thing done and then go and invest more material,
yeah,
I'm not quoting it at the same thing because it's not costing the same. It's costing the gas to get that guy from instead of what we work into the price, right? Travel from our office to there. Now it's from wherever the guy was. I need to pull him, reschedule that appointment, risk losing that appointment, then go buy material, mm-hmm. and not in bulk with our regular stuff. It's just another hassle, another headache, and it's time and money.
Yeah.
So that's why. And most of the time, what I would say is, well, we can reschedule to come back another day to do the tub and tile, unless you guys want to pay us hourly. Sometimes they'll go for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just an example.
I think that's what I would do. I would reschedule the tile because to do that, and if you take everything you said into consideration, if you gotta leave to go get more product,
material, now you're wasting more money in gas,
and then you're running out of daylight. It doesn't matter about the daylight, right? Because you can spray. I've sprayed it at night before. It's the same as spraying in the day.
Let me give you an example.
Okay.
We used to do this apartment complex in Disney called Chatham Square, and it's right next to on Highway 535, which is right next to like downtown Disney entrance here at Disney Springs now. And this apartment complex would call us for tubs, and we would go over there for 2, and they'd be like, no, but there's 8 of them. And then they would be like, well, why'd you charge me so much on the bill? And I'd be like, well, because you guys told us one thing and then told us another. Like, and then I would literally, I did it a couple times. I would literally call people and be like, no, you got to tell these people you can't go because we need to come over here. We need to do this. And the reason is because we were already there. We already invested time and material. And I had put in the writing, like, if you do this, it's going to cost you this much more. You know, and you know, they didn't like it, but it's just one of those things. Like, we would show up over there for 2 and they would throw 8 at us and be like, well, no, they all need to be done today because they're getting rented. Well, it's like, communicate that. That's something that the hospitality industry has an issue with sometimes, is communication to the contractor. And part of it is because, again, like we were talking about, there's a lot of fly-by-nighters, and some of them do a good job. I'm not even going to lie. Some of them, they don't exist anywhere, but they do good quality work. But a lot of them are just yes men. They're so scared of losing this relationship, the bid, the project. They're so afraid that they just say yes no matter what the hotel says. So they think everybody operates that way.
Well, they think of the zero-sum game. You know, that's what they think. They think if one refinisher across town lands one job, they think they've lost a job and lost that money. No.
Such a dumb way of thinking.
It's not. A lot of people think that way, and it's pretty much the common way. They're always, that's why stuff is not happening how it should in this industry.
I'm sorry, but it's like when people like be like, oh man, that guy's so lucky, he won the lottery. Well, he was playing the lottery. Were you? It's not luck. He invested in it. Like,
he bought a ticket.
Yeah.
You can't win unless you buy a ticket.
Exactly. It's like, what a dumb way of fucking thinking. If he's not lucky, you had no chance because you weren't in it. And that's just how you could apply that to anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what were you gonna say?
That's why I think the industry is in the position that it is because they're so worried about one guy getting a job or one guy not getting a job, or, oh my God, if this guy gets 2 jobs, like, I'm screwed. Like, I got to be willing to do anything and everything. And it's like, no. You got to have self-respect.
Yep.
You got to do what makes sense, and you got to do what's right.
And you got to reciprocate because people in hospitality are really nice people. But if they expect something from you, then you should expect them to do that too. So, you know, hotels that we work at, sometimes they want us to send them sheets that have all the warranty rooms we've done, or they want us to send, something a very specific way. Well, then respect our process too. When we tell you in writing before we even touch anything, not to use something to clean something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a major thing.
Yeah.
That's a major thing for this process that we're talking about, because you cannot use something that's going to be damaging to the top coat.
You can't be using, like, we've had hotels use soft scrub on the tubs, and it's like, yeah, just because it says soft doesn't mean it's soft. Like, you know, you got to know what the hell you're using and go by the recommendations. And we even gave them Ecolab equivalents to the stuff, because a lot of hotels use Ecolab. Ecolab is, you know who they are, right?
No.
Okay, so Ecolab, you should familiarize yourself.
Not. I don't know which one you're talking about specifically.
Ecolab is a company that provides cleaning products to hotels, apartments, like multifamily places, hospitals, and they're I think they're the world's largest, like, chemical.
Is that the one with
looks
like a little globe, and it's kind of faded on one side? It looks like a sphere.
It maybe. I don't know what their logo. They're usually, I just see the trucks that say Ecolab, but they're a really big company.
Green and blue or something like that.
Yes.
White trucks, green and blue.
Or, yeah, blue and green. Yeah, that sounds right. So, but Ecolab is one of those companies where, like, a hotel calls them, and they're like, "Well, I need something to clean the tubs." And Ecolab's like, "Oh yeah, this right here, and we'll sell you the concentrate for $20, and you can make 30 fucking bottles out of it." And they're like, "Oh shit, you know."
Well, that's all they hear.
It's costing them nothing. And what they don't take into account is that there is different levels to what is the tub been refinished before. They don't ask these questions. People at Ecolab don't ask the hotel, have the tubs been refinished before? You know why?
They probably don't know to ask that question.
Yes, because people in the industry don't make it a point. People in this industry do not respect themselves as much as they should. I respect myself enough to when a hotel is not a multi-million-dollar property
At that.
is not reading the terms of a document that they signed and agreed to and was verbally spoken to them multiple times. I respect myself and my business enough to start charging them. And if you don't, and you just run away from it, you're legitimizing he's just in it for the money. Or no. The companies that hide and run away is not because they're in it for the money. The companies that hide and run away is because they don't have the fucking balls to go up to the person in charge and tell them, don't use this to clean or I'm going to send you the bill.
Well, it seems easy to solve that issue. Not only do you send it in writing, whenever you show up on the property, whether you're doing a walkthrough or whether you're doing it there, tell your technicians whenever they see the cleaning person or whatever. I mean, everybody should be able to communicate and talk.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't want to do. They want to hide behind phones or text messages or something
and then it
like
comes
that.
off like a lot of people think that they don't think that they're doing the wrong thing, or maybe they think they're doing the wrong thing, but I don't think most people are thinking of, okay, I'm just not going to go back maliciously. I think they're not going back because they don't have the courage to go to somebody in a position of power and tell them, hey, this was in writing. We need to start sending you a bill if you don't change this. And by the way, everything that was done up to this point, I have to void it. And you tell them, I had a hotel in Miami. We did the tubs. I don't live close to Miami. I'm 5 hours away. I can't be going over there every weekend. We did the tubs correct. They were using a cleaner that we specifically told them not to use. Had it in writing. Don't use this. Please change it. Multiple times. I called the owner of the hotel. Told him, you guys need to change the cleaner. Okay. What do we need to use? This is what you need to use. 6 months later, I'm getting a call about, these tubs are starting to stain. It's chemical burn from the shit they were using. Because it has hydrofluoric acid in it. It's like when you put toilet bowl cleaner on a tub. If you could put toilet bowl cleaner on a fucking fiberglass tub and it'll melt the plastic on the fiberglass. It'll go through a coating way easier, guys. That's not... Hydrofluoric acid is what we use to etch porcelain and china surfaces, like tile, so that the material will stick onto it. It chemically burns something as hard as porcelain. It will go through the coating a lot easier. And they were complaining to me about it. Like, you guys need to come over here and take a look at this. I'm like, so what are you guys using to clean? We're not using anything crazy. We're just using this Ecolab product. And I'm just like, well, that product has acid in it, and it's burning your tubs, and I'm voiding the warranty on the hotel. Because what do you want me to do? You want me to go over there and do it for free? You couldn't read it. You couldn't call somebody at Ecolab and tell them to change the product. Like, you couldn't use something else and dilute it. You had to just go and use it, and then now you want me to be responsible for it?
They were just thinking, get it clean, just get them something. And basically they were worried about cost.
And when it comes to commercial, I'm a little bit less forgiving about stuff like that. And I will still go back and I'm not trying to make it seem like you fuck up once and I'm going to, but when it's like you always say, talk to me like I'm 4.
Yeah, I tell people that a lot.
Okay.
Talk to me like I'm 4.
I do that shit to these hotels. I'm like, you need to change the cleaner. It's not the right cleaner. It's going to damage the surface. Sometimes we even show them what it looks like. And, we're like, hey, please abide by this. But then they start getting hostile towards us. And they don't realize, the whole time, you guys have been not paying attention, not doing it properly. And what do you want me to do? Would you go and just give away a room to somebody for no reason? No. Well, it's time and money. It's the same thing. And, our hotels around here, in Orlando and stuff, we give them a little bit more leeway because we're here. But I've had to hit the hammer down on people before here.
Well, the further you get out of your immediate environment, the tighter it has to be, and the communication has to be on point.
Yeah.
And a lot of times within companies, small businesses, large businesses, I don't know why this is. Like, what do you mean you can't communicate because you have 100 people? How do militaries communicate over a wide, range of environments and stuff like that? How do they do it? They communicate effectively.
Well, because they have chains of command and people are in charge of certain things. And so, like, that's something that, like what I was talking about, sometimes people don't talk because they don't know who to talk to. Because you might be the guy who's reporting everything to engineering. Mm-hmm. Well, if engineering's not responding, well, then you got to go to the GM. GM doesn't respond, well, then you got to start making calls. Find out who the hell is corporate for Hilton and call and make a report. And do one in writing and send a carbon copy to everybody at the hotel and make it be known that you are going to try to find a solution to this before they go and tell their bosses that you're the fucking problem. Well, because that's what they do.
That's what you should do, and you should stand your ground, and you should keep asking until you get an answer, because someone knows, and everybody tries to pass the buck.
Well, even if you get an answer, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen.
True.
So, verbal, yes. In writing, yes. And then you carbon copy everybody who you think is important to be in this email, and you copy them all in there so they could all see it. Mm-hmm. The whole thing with the magic eraser situation, everybody in that hotel got an email that I felt was important.
Some companies do that. They should. It just depends on the company. They have communication devices. Some of them give company cell phones. Some of them, you get an email for this, an email for that. I worked at a company. I'm not going to mention their name, but their communication was, spot on.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong. Everyone knew what everyone was doing. They all knew of upcoming projects, when they were going to be doing, what the current status of the project was, and actually where each job was at.
I respect that, and I think that's something.
I do too.
I think that's something that's been lost on people who are in trades, is having structure. It's been a little wild for us here too, but we're trying to build structure because, you ask yourself, like, why is there so many different departments in all these places? Well, it's because it's necessary. Because if not, you will start to get jumbled, lose stuff. You end up doing work for free because you didn't send that invoice when you thought you did. Like, there's a reason there's departments. And the cost of not having structure, and part of the structure is if you have a 5-year warranty, which is industry standard, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
If you have a 5-year warranty and you do not actually enforce your warranty, delete it.
Well, if you're not going to honor it, don't say.
Well, if you're not going to honor it, obviously, but if you're not going to enforce it, like if you're just going to go, if a customer calls you back 5 times, you're going to go 5 times and just fix it for free knowing it's not you, don't have a warranty.
No, well, you got to have it, like you said, in writing. What are the things to do? Proper care, proper maintenance, and things that void it.
Yeah. And then I always tell, again, like we were talking about earlier, benefit of the doubt one time for something that's out of warranty. After that, you need to enforce your warranty. Because if you don't do it, all you're doing is hurting yourself. There's a point where the line between having good customer service and customer care turns into customer abuse.
It's a thin line.
Yeah.
It's a thin line because they'll try to find some type of loophole, something that you didn't say.
Yep.
It gets ridiculous. Even when you were talking about sending the emails and stuff like that, some people don't even open their emails.
Let me give you a crazy example. This happened to me the other day. I have a customer, and he calls me because we did a tub for him 7 years ago. So it's out of warranty already. And he's like, hey, this tub is messed up and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, well, we'll charge you $375 to get it refinished. But they were using a bath mat, so they voided the warranty. It was peeling on the floor like crazy. Anyway, it was unadhering is the point. After 7 years, it lasted them 7 years. And most people, if they weren't using that, honestly, probably would have outlasted it. But it's a rental Airbnb, and it gets cleaned by a third-party company. Long story short, I told him this tub's gonna have to be stripped because the floor's too bad and we're gonna have to strip it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh no, that's crazy! Like you said it was $375, and I think it's $500, and you got me cornered and all this shit." And I'm just like, "Hey, listen, like we're gonna go and do it for the $375. We agreed to it. We get over to the job site and it's 20 times worse than we thought. So like I have the guy over there and I'm like, hey, like we might have to charge the stripping. He's like, oh, like he starts telling me to go F myself and all this shit.
Really?
And then he's like, hey, he's like, no, I'm sorry and all this stuff. Go ahead and do it. So the tech does it, comes out beautiful. And then he's like, oh, I just have a problem. Your technician didn't finish the job properly. And I'm like,
what?
I'm like, what happened? And he's like, well, he didn't refinish the soap dish. And I'm like, the soap dish is not part of the tub refinishing service. And he's like, oh, no, that's bullshit. I'm just like, everything that we're doing that's on the work order is in writing. You signed it. You can't expect us to go and just read your mind and think, hey, maybe he wants the soap dish done. And also on top of that, do it for free. And he's like, well, you guys did it 7 years ago for free. And I'm just like, those were different times, man. You know?
That was 7 years ago also. Plus you were using a bath mat and no telling what they were using to clean that. Probably Comet or something. I don't know.
We ended up, and this, again, I believe in good customer service. So, whatever.
But like you said, customer service.
Between customer abuse. And I told them, we are going to go fix it, but I don't want to hear from you again, pretty much. Like, respectfully. If there's something legitimately wrong with the tub, okay. But don't call me, don't offer me more jobs. I would rather not do business with you.
Well, if he already went to the extent of,
well, yeah, he went on full disrespect. We went out, we fixed the soap dish, he paid, everything was good. But that just goes to show, like, there's a line there. Like, he was withholding payment for days because we didn't do a soap dish that wasn't on the work order that he never discussed that he wanted. And how the hell am I supposed to remember that 7 years ago we did a soap dish for you for free? It wasn't on the work order from the original work because I looked it up. You know what probably happened? He probably was there while my tech was there 7 years ago. And he was probably like, hey, you mind throwing in that soap dish? And the tech was like, I'm already here, so I'll do it. And he probably just did it to be nice. And didn't even put it on the work order.
Possibly. And y'all were in a really different position 7 years ago.
Yeah, we were in a... We're running the shit out of our garage.
So, yeah, which is not unusual. A lot of people start out at their homes, stuff like that.
7 years ago, my parents were running this shit. So, that's how you know.
Yeah. So, like you said, different times, different leadership. If you were being nice ago 7 years, how are you supposed to remember that? You're not. But see, that was an extreme example of how some customers will do you.
Yeah.
They'll try to get everything they can for free.
But don't ever play into the name calling, and I've done that, and it's not fun for anybody. And then you don't want negative feedback. Remember, you're trying to protect your image and your brand as much as possible, and the last thing you want is to call somebody a fucking idiot, and then them go and like expose you on social media and all this stuff and make you look bad. Like, you got to deal with people in a way where you have a little bit of like, you have to have empathy to a certain point. You know what I mean? I feel what's going on. I know you're upset. This is the solution we could offer you. And it's kind of the whole kill them with kindness kind of a thing,
I fully agree with what you're saying. I always deal with everyone like that.
Yeah.
I respect everyone. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're from, where you're at. We're all human.
Or even what energy you're giving me. Because I know he was just upset because he thought it was part of it. And you know what? I could see a scenario where I might think like, hey, last time I got this and I didn't get it this time and I'm kind of upset about it. I didn't think he had to go all out like that. But
he didn't. He crossed the line.
Yeah, some people react differently. And also, again, he wasn't anticipating to pay that much from the beginning, tub with the stripping and all that. And, he wasn't anticipating it, so I get it. In general, though, as a rule of thumb, I generally will suggest this was a special case because it was a returning customer. And, normally when you do the tub under regular conditions, even after a decade, you could just give it a light sand and recoat it. And it's good for another decade or so because once the primer and the etch bond onto the tub, That's just not coming off.
And this is the specific product that you continue to use till this day, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So see, you know your product.
Yeah. So, but because he was using the bath mat, water started getting underneath, and it made the tub unadhere. But as a rule of thumb, in general, if you do any kind of contracting work, you outline the prices beforehand, and then that way there's no surprises. And if you're in a job or in a field where there can be surprises, there's fluctuations in material and all that, make them sign a right to change order, and you make them authorize any changes that are happening to the project. So, if the price of lumber was, $2 for a 2x4 or something, and now it's $6, well, then you make them sign off that they're agreeing to pay the $6. And if they don't want it, well, then you tell them, well, I can't do the job.
Well, if they don't sign off on it, you definitely don't want to start the job at all.
But exactly. But if you're in the middle of it and it changed in the middle of it, tough shit. You gotta don't be working for free, and also be as transparent as possible. You tell them things change every day. We try to order as much as possible. Supply chain issues. We haven't been able to get everything. It's supposed to come on this day. But if it's more expensive, and sometimes things like that happen. Even with us, sometimes I think.
Well, you do have to change sometimes. Availability right now is an issue.
Yeah.
For some things, and some things it's not.
Well, and
some things they're trying to make you believe it is an issue.
Some companies who make material just keep raising prices, even though their supply chain issues have all been figured out.
Yeah, that's a can of worms.
But they do it because they can. But then that translates to us. Then we got to start charging more.
Well, then it doesn't mean that we can't find the alternatives, because we can find the alternatives.
Well, yeah. Well, that goes back to what we were talking about, me, you, and Jonathan. When I mentioned to you, and I told him I would mention it to you, about actually coming up with standards for these types of things. And we're not going to go too much into depth about it right now, because I think that's something that's a little bit better to plan out behind closed doors, and then kind of just talk about it publicly once we get it situated. But we need to come up with standards.
There needs to be. And
then from there, we will be the ones that control, to a certain extent, or at least influence greatly, material cost for bulk, material cost for, innovations, like things that are new, things that are going to be better. We're the people who are their market. We need to start influencing the companies that are selling to us to help us out a little bit, because right now they're just going hand over fist because there is no structure.
I wish they would open up discussions with us. Why do we have to reach out to them? Why can't they reach out to us? Why have they never tried that? Why don't they advertise more?
It's about being comfortable.
Why are they? Hey, it's more complacency.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. People get complacent of where they are in life, and if they, let me just tell you, man. I mean, if you started making coatings and you're a fucking multimillionaire, and you don't have any problems in your day to day, rather than just getting the stuff done, I mean, at that point, there are some people who just from that point they won't push anymore. They feel like they've made it already, so they don't have that urgency, Well,
I mean, they got to remember why they started in the first place.
Yeah.
You started because you either saw a need, there was a demand, or you were trying to help yourself by having an income. But don't forget, we do these things in this industry for a good reason. There's reasons why these assets need to be protected. What I talked to you about that. We protect the assets of the hotels. That's exactly what we do. Properties, apartment complexes, hotels, residential, rentals. We are protecting your assets through a process called refinishing or reglazing, resurfacing, protecting it so it can continue to produce your revenue over time. It's going to make you money.
And save you money.
And save you money. That's a big issue that they overlook it. They overlook it.
And you know what? That's a very, because we touched on that before. And you didn't go that much into depth about it, because I did want to save some of it for the show. So I'm glad you brought it up in the way that you did. Reminds me, hotels do what's known as a soft good renovation, especially in Florida.
A soft code?
Soft good.
Soft good, okay.
Soft good renovation. Soft good renovations is where they take mattresses, they take sheets, they take upholstery, and that's what they redo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get the same chair. They'll refinish the wood on the chair. They're not going to buy new chairs.
I've done that.
Yeah. So that's what they'll do. And they'll have, I mean, at Cabana Bay, they're doing soft good renovation. We got in as an independent project aside from the soft good renovation, because typically something like this, they would leave for hard good renovation. Hard good renovation is not happening for another 3 to 5 years there, because that hotel is still pretty new. And so the soft good renovation is like carpets and stuff like that. They'll pull all that upholstery. And so that's what they're doing. You know, they're refinishing the woodwork. And they have a booth and everything outside where they're refinishing the chairs. And then they reupholstery, you know, the cushions and all that stuff. And that's basically what they're doing, is they're protecting the assets that they have now to make them money now, make them more money now. And instead of buying a new chair for $150, $200, because they have good chairs, they're paying half of that to keep it now and have it last them longer.
Yeah, because you want to do a one-time purchase and just redo it.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of times now why they're not looking at industries like this, because we've gotten so used to the throwaway society. Just get another one. It's so cheap. Just throw it away and just go buy more. And
well, this is the big benefit of bathtubs. And people who think, if there's any customers or anybody who's not in this industry who thinks that this is just like refinishing a bathtub is dumb because you could just, you know, pop in a new one, you are very mistaken. Bathtubs have like a little lip behind them where the tile sits, and they're basically built around the house. The tiles is installed around the bathtub. You would have to pull out tile, rework plumbing in a lot of cases. If your backer board is bad, you got to do that, and because it wouldn't be to code. And so there's a lot of things. Replacing a bathtub could easily cost you $4,000 to $5,000.
more probably.
Yeah, well, if you have backer board issues where you got to start taking out that, I mean, you're talking 8 to 10 to 12. I mean, it could get pricey depending on who you're using and where you are.
So I'm glad that you brought that up, because now I've had people tell me, well, why would I allow you to charge me that much? And then I see them at Home Depot all the time, or I see them at Lowe's all the time for less than what you're charging. I'm going to say the price of that tub is less than what I'm charging you. But once you get into it, the demo, the time that they're going to take to do that is probably going to be around a 2-week process. You're going to have to replace that tile if you want the same one, and if you can find it, if you can find the size of the tub, because houses were built in different years. Tub standards were different.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so you may not be able to find one that's going to fit perfectly there.
Exactly, yep.
You're going to have to redo the floor. You're going to have to get a plumber. You're going to have to get a tiler. You might be able to find a guy that can do all that for you, but you're going to pay thousands more than what I'm charging you for under $1,000.
Yep.
You know, in most cases, if they want a lot of work, okay, yeah, my prices are going to be more than $1,000, but it depends on how many items they want done.
Yeah.
You know, so that's thousands of dollars that on the surface, it looks like they're only going to pay a few hundred. But it's like, no, you got to get that plumber. He's got to be certified depending on your area, what you're, you know, where you're at, you know, your homeowners or whatever. It's more costly. Do the refinishing, do the surface. This industry started for that reason, because these guys
that's
new.
I feel like that's the way you should tell them. Well, we exist for a reason.
We do.
And
we absolutely do.
The reason we exist is because the cost of refinishing is less than installing a new tub. And that's just common sense. And something that I did for a while is that I had gotten a quote to tear out a tub and replace it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have that screenshot. And I would send it to customers when they would hit me with that. It doesn't happen as much anymore.
Yeah.
But when I was hit with that, I'd be like, this is a quote I got to replace a bathtub. $6,000.
$6,000. What'd they tell you?
And
How many days?
And they don't even reinstall the tile for you. That's just to rip your tile out, rework your plumbing, and put a new tub in there. And then you gotta go, and then you gotta spend money on putting a person in there to tile it. And guess what? What happens if your shiny new fucking tub, somebody drops a tile on it?
It's done.
And then you chip it. You're gonna have to call a refinisher anyway.
Well, you gotta call us. You know what I've been hearing lately too about that? The price of lumber is not even thought about. They're having to replace this lumber on some of these. You know, if they decide to rip it out or change from a bathtub to that's the only thing I can't do. Yeah. There's some guys that can do it, but I can't rip out a bathtub and then change it into a shower.
Yeah.
I can't do that. But if you're looking for something that's gonna look great, it's gonna be better than what you had, definitely, and it's gonna save you a ton of money, and you're gonna have it, in a short amount of time, do it.
Refinishing is the answer for most people, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the insight, and it's part of the reason why it's partially the problem of the industry for not educating people enough, and that goes for people who make the coatings, that goes for people who do the actual work, and people who just post boring nonsense all day. You're doing a disservice to the general public, because if more people knew about refinishing, there'd be a lot less people financing $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 bathroom remodels, because they're not paying for it with cash. A regular middle class family can't afford a $10,000 bath remodel. You know why they're doing it? Because they don't even know we exist.
No. I wonder what they would do if they found out the life cycle of a bathtub. That it was probably sitting in a scrapyard somewhere.
Yeah.
Before that, it's I don't know. That's something else, but
it's just it's crazy to me, and like I'm trying to change it, but I'm just one person, and I have people like you who are like-minded who see that there's so much potential here, but it's such a shame that like this industry isn't more known about because of the last people who were doing this. Like the last generation of people they just treated it like some little side hustle thing, when it's like, look at all the potential. I mean, hotels alone. Do you think that hotels are out here ripping out tile in 1,000 rooms? Hell no.
No, they're not. I've stayed at some pretty nice hotels around the country, and I look at it and I'm like, this is their finished bathtub.
They refinish.
And it's been on multiple occasions, and I've been pretty much all over the place.
The last time I went on a cruise, I went to the port of Miami, and there was a Holiday Inn over there, and they had their tubs refinished. The hotel was a little shitty, but hey, man, those tubs were good. They were good, and they were painted really, really well. Yeah. And I think it was Safe Step because they had a diamond pattern on the floor. A pretty good job.
Is that like one of their...
That's like a signature thing of theirs, although they don't have it copyrighted, so I can do it.
Yeah. Well, you figured out how to do it.
Yeah. I think mine looks better. Theirs is a little lighter. It doesn't have as many diamonds. Mm-hmm. Ours looks a little bit more gritty. Like it looks like a grid pattern. Yeah. And it looks a little cooler.
Well, then you're good. Then you didn't exact copy there.
Well, theirs is actually it's actually kind of cool what they do. I'm a fan of the idea. It's actually their logo. It spells out S and S. Mm-hmm. It's Safe Step, but it's also a little grid pattern. That's pretty cool. I mean, whoever thought of that put some thought into it. Like they literally made their own non-skid, and then on top of that,
you gonna pull it up?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. They made their own like non-skid thing. I'm gonna do it over here so I can see it.
Okay.
And then I'll put it over there. But they put some thought into the logo. I think it's pretty cool, and I think they give people the option if you want the smaller one, or if you want like a bigger one to fit like the whole thing of the tub. Yeah. But most of the ones I've seen is the one that looks like their logo. Let's see if I can find it on here. All right, I think I found it. Safe Step.
Nice.
Safe Step tub. Safe Step. Okay. Found it. All right, so this is their grid pattern. See that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's an S and an S. See it? You can kind of make it out. It's like the two squares on the top,
Uh-huh.
and then the little
I
two
see it.
squares on the side. Yeah, and then it makes like the 2S. And I mean, I think that's pretty smart, honestly. But yeah, just showing you. So just for context, the people who are watching the video
Yeah.
version.
Well, they might have not seen. I didn't look at that site.
Yeah, and if any refinishers out there have the time, scrub through their website. You'll be surprised of how they market, because and not for nothing, like I don't have all the answers, so I go to other people and I look and see how they're marketing, people who are more successful. And SafeStep markets to hotels in a very specific way, and I think it's helped me because now I know, okay, well these people do a lot of commercial. And this is how they're marketing. So this must be what they've found to be valuable things for the hotel to hear. And that, I'll share some of it with you. So rooms are the hotel's business, right? They're in the business of selling rooms. So speed sells to commercial. Quality sells to commercials. So you're going to do it fast, you're going to do a good job.
Right.
And, safety features, non-skid. They don't want to get sued. I recommend every bathtub refinisher integrate the non-skid into your pricing for commercial. It should be in there.
What would you suggest for that on something like that?
It needs to be in your tub price. So for me, non-skid, like for the guys, it doesn't take that long.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually just include it. So for Cabana Bay, they're paying $300. It includes a non-skid. And I ate the cost of the stencils, which cost about $2.50 per tub. But it's of value to them to have that. But knowing what I know now, I would have bid on Cabana Bay higher. I would have quoted them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just the size of the project, all the headaches we had and stuff. But that's why you learn. Next time, I will know.
Well, it's a learning process, like you said. Like when you jump in, you're not gonna absolutely know every variable. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
Because that's the part about it's not manufacturing. You know what I mean? Like you're having to do each one specific and individual to its unique problems.
Another thing that SafeStep does. They sell the non-skid as like a safety feature with a specific term known as slip coefficient. Slip coefficient is the number on a scale of measuring the slipperiness of a surface. So a lot of buildings for American Disability Act compliance, ADA, they need to know what number slip coefficient the floor is to make sure it's safe. The same thing for the non-skid on the tubs. There is a standard. There is a standard for different hotels. So Hilton might be one number, Lowe's hotels might be one number, Holiday Inn might be another number. But they do have standards because they do not want to get sued for people slipping in the tubs. And if there's reasonable numbers that legally will bar them from being sued if the tub was measured at that number.
Well, that's a nice feature, and it's a good thing to have because, like you said, not only do you want to get sued, but the most important thing is you don't want someone to have an accident and get seriously injured, on your property. That's not what you intended it for.
Yep.
So you want them to be having an exciting time, a safe time as possible, and that's why we have wheelchair access and things like that. Some of them have the handrails and stuff like that. Yeah, because you want everybody to be able to enjoy it. You want to be able to accommodate everyone. You can't accommodate all kinds of things. You can't have like all kinds of safety features and stuff like that. Safety features in their paints. I've been in some buildings that have that. It is great. If the power ever goes out, like you can find your way out. But they did a great thing right there. I got to give them props for that because I wasn't aware of that. But like I said, the more you talk to people, the more I talk to you, the more I learn.
And you got to learn how to measure the slip coefficient.
Yeah. What's the rate? What's the rating? Like paint, for instance, has a scrub rate.
Yeah.
But when I've asked manufacturers about this, we've never been asked that question. Well, why not? It's the same thing because you're still cleaning it, you're doing it. But
it just
when I
depends-
ask questions like that,
It depends on a hotel. They will give you a number. Generally, it's in context to something that's happened in the past, and then the judge ordered them their slip coefficient needs to be this much based on ADA compliance. So it just depends.
I wonder if they implemented that
For,
after the problem happened or they thought about it before.
Probably after. For the non-skid on the tubs. For floors, I think it's a 0.03 coefficient. Even regular polished floors have that technically. Like a lot of floor guys, they know like specifics because they have to abide by ADA compliance. Especially in Florida where sometimes it's raining. If it's outdoors, you'll feel like a little texture on the floor. It's additives that they put on the floor to make it. It's not just the bare cement sometimes. It's literally that they put a non-skid on there. Shark grip is actually created for cement floors. That's what we use for anti-skid.
Yeah. I remember you saying that you used the shark grip.
Yeah, shark grip is really good. For Cabana Bay specifically, I think it was 0.60. But we demolished that. We get 1.1, 1.5. Sometimes we get 2s. And we go higher than the number. Like our idea going into it was we need to kill this number so that even if it's applied a little lighter for whatever reason, it's still over the number. Because we don't want to be liable anyway. They're trusting us with that. So our slip coefficients always pass the test. I mean, it was getting to the point where they just stopped measuring it because every single tub would destroy the test, wet and dry.
How do they test it?
You need a slip meter. You can buy one. They're pricey. But job done.
Like how much?
It just depends.
5, 6?
Oh, no, way more. 1,600, 2,000. You can try to find one used. Sometimes people don't know what they are and they sell them really cheap. But there is a standard, American Slip Company or something, or American Slip Meter Company, and they're usually the ones that make these things. They make a very big one with a conveyor for like big cement floors. They make ones for smaller surfaces, which is one we use. I could show you it later.
Okay.
And that's how we test slip coefficient for hotels. It's very simple system. It has like a little box that's weighted, and then you need to calibrate the system so it's not counting the weight of the actual box. The box is about, I would say maybe 8 pounds. It's pretty heavy for what it is. And it has a chain with a little lever, and when you pull on it, it slips, and then the feet give it a reading. And that's the number.
Well, I'm glad they made that.
Oh yeah, well, I'm glad I found it because we needed it for Cabana Bay. So yeah, that's how we perform the slip test. And there's different ones. Some of them read a little bit more accurately, but they all have it could be over under 0.1 when it's calibrated. So as long as you're over under 0.1, you're good, which we always are. We're always way higher.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, obviously. And people are using these tubs when they're really wet, have soap and shit on the bottom,
which makes it even more slippery.
Exactly. So that's why we go over. And you saw how coarse the anti-skid was on that tub, but when you touch it, it doesn't feel like it's gonna hurt or anything. Yeah. Sometimes the hotels get concerned, is it gonna feel too rough? And it's like, it might feel rough to your hand, but once you're in there, number one, it's on your feet. Your feet has thicker skin. And number two, once the water's in there, it's cleaned a couple times, it's not going to feel like that.
Yeah. It was, when I removed the non-slip from that one, it feels coarse to the hand.
Yeah.
But you're right. When you get in there with the feet and you got
water.
Soap all over it, water, it's not going to feel rough.
Yeah,
it's not going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's going to do what it's intended to do. It's going to help you from not slipping.
And we tested, we put it up on the social media, our slip test. We tried different brands, different heaviness. We tried it all, and Shark Grip actually surprised us. The difference maker for us was applying it the next day and not trapping it in between the top coat and the primer, because that would eat up too much of the grittiness. Applying it the next day is what's helping us in that front. And then we apply it with 4-hour cure, and that stuff does not come off. I mean, you
And
put
it's
it on,
solid.
It's solid. It's on there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. Also helps protect it. I mean, somebody drops a tool on the non-skid, it's a lot less.
Yeah, it's not going to be as damaging as it would if it were to land on the top coat, which is so common.
Yeah.
Maintenance guys going in there. And I told you about that one instance where the guy, dropped tools and stepped in there.
At Cabana Bay, when they're reinstalling drains and overflows, they're in there with tools. So sometimes they over tighten it and it cracks. It makes tension. It cracks the fucking material. It's happened on a couple of them. I put out a memo to engineering. I was like, please have your guys just tight it snug. You go too tight, you are going to damage the finish. And again, I'm not going to be able to warranty this forever.
Well, yeah, because you got to cover it, man. Because there's so many things that can happen, especially when you got multiple contractors.
They use power tools. That's the problem. They should be hand tightening the overflow cap.
Oh, they're using power tools?
Yeah, they're using a powered screwdriver to screw in the overflow caps.
I guess they think that it's not going to crack it.
They go too tight sometimes. Sometimes they're okay, but they can create too much tension if they're over tightening the.
Well, it depends on what you're doing, because all the, it's not. They're not all the same. Some of them have a lot of torque.
Yeah.
If you got some real tools.
Yeah. Well, then that'll mess it all up.
If you got some snap-on that's gonna keep on going, no, there's a reason why those tools cost so much.
Yeah. So is there any other questions you have as far as business side, commercial stuff, anything that you want to know? You're here.
Yeah.
In front of me. You can ask whatever you like.
Yeah, I'm here in front of you. We've covered quite a bit in this one.
We have.
We could go on and on. This could be a never-ending podcast. But what are we at right now?
We're at 2 hours and 1 minute.
2 hours and 1 minute. I don't want to make it too long where somebody's like, they're just.
All right. So what we'll do is like what we said yesterday. We'll cut it, and then we'll make it a 2-part. So we'll make this part 1, and then we'll do it. We'll start right up again. Kind of talk in between and come up with what we're going to talk about for the next set.
All right.
Just continue it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for now, that is this episode, guys. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you guys in the next one where we continue this. And
Part 2 coming soon.
Yeah. All righty. Give me 1 second.
You just listened to the official Bathtub Refinishing podcast, powered by BathTubGuys Refinishing. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to ask any questions or suggest topics for the next episode by following @BathTubGuys on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. And thanks for listening.